What is somatic experiencing? Do you want to
Yeah, what is it?
New that is really hitting the airwaves lately, like in the
It
last
really is. I'm so in
years?
this lifetime, one of our collective lessons, collective learnings is about our emotional and our somatic body, like as a species that we're integrating. A lot of traditional mental health therapy is about cognitive strategies, which is thinking strategies, which is fine and works. However, the somatic strategies include that. So my body, your body, everyone's body that's listening carries a recorded history of everything that's ever happened to us, our ancestors, and the human experience.
Hold on. Cellular memory? Is that what somatic?
Yeah. It's at the cell level, but it's even more than that. So somatic experiencing, what happens with trauma and chronic stress is we get disrupted from our lived experience of being alive, being a human. And so somatic experiencing brings back all of the channels of being. So it brings the cognitive channel into being. It brings the behavioral channel into being. It brings our imaginal channel into being, like your third eye, your mind center, like your spiritual channel. It brings your physical channel into being, your affect channel into being, your felt sense channel into being, your spirit, your divinity, your spiritual nature into being, like a soul and body. It brings it all back.
I just got myself a new label.
Yeah.
I do all that, but I just looked at it as cellular memories, and I'm trained in divine intervention, spontaneous remission, right? So accessing the divine to,
That's it. Yeah. And to heal trauma often becomes a very spiritual experience, to bring all of those channels back and to be and have the felt sense of being fully alive. And because what happens with trauma and chronic stress is there's a trauma response or a part that's blended in someone's body. And that part, a lot of times, is cranking out thoughts. And maybe it's intrusive thoughts, worry thoughts, depressive thoughts, whatever, compulsive thoughts, addictive thoughts, you name it, anything that's labeled as a mental health thoughts that are related. And those thoughts are diagnosed as a certain kind of way. Well, it's this part, and the part comes with posture, comes with a lot of times like a voice intonation.
Yeah, I was gonna say it comes with a tone.
It comes with a frequency.
Yes.
And it comes with a different frequency that I'm trained in and how to pick up on that. It comes with a felt sense. Anxiety and anxious part is going to feel, very different. Maybe we'll play with our anxious parts today, or an anxious part today. And that there is just a part of the mosaic of self. I just call it, like, we're a beautiful mosaic of self. And with trauma, folks with trauma, there's going to be more parts that have more that trauma physiology that are stuck in more extreme roles, for socially acceptable extreme roles, like overworking. Like America loves that. When
yes.
And if you're a mother and you're like self-sacrificing, yes. Like if you're
a
woman,
they wear it as a badge of honor.
Exactly.
Right? And
if you're fawning,
and frequency associated with that, which is not helpful to your human DNA. So, yeah. And the one other thing I wanted to ask you, because something I picked up, it started hitting me like wildfire, recognizing something with men. And I sense that this is something, it's a generational issue. And I would like your insight on it, if you don't mind. What
is the thing? Is it
a
pattern?
I think that we had a lot of angry women raising their children, raising boys, right? And we emasculated a good chunk of our men, such that they're one way at work, where they get home, and I'm not just talking my home either. I'm not actually even talking about my home. That's what I see in relationship, where these men don't feel empowered to speak their truth, right? To say no or say yes. They become people pleasers because they were raised by angry women who were angry because their husbands were off doing that work thing that you said, wearing that as a badge of honor. And these women were raising children on their own. And I'm looking at this, I'm like, this is a big deal.
Yeah, you're touching on what you're speaking at is a certain generation or a couple generations.
Yes.
A couple generations in there. And maybe I'll speak more widely I'll address this and speak more widely, because I really think this is a very important question and a deep curiosity. So I've taught at the master's level counselors and folks licensed.
You teach at Drake, at least last time I knew you.
I did in the past, and I've taught at other universities. And this is where I'm stating, like, this is within the scope, because I have to teach, like, how do things get to be this way within our health? How does this show up?
Exactly.
And so there was a generation where, so with industrializations, a lot of men came out of the fields and into the factories, and in the factories working these really long hours. And then, before a certain period of time, women were the primary caretakers and men were working a lot. And the conditioning, a lot of this is the conditioning and the socialization of men, because men have built the world on their backs, and that's where they were said that they were valued. And so very, very physical labor typically. And then we've gone in, even in our lifetime, we've seen men come out of the factories and into offices, which is not a lot of heavy labor, but still working these long hours still, because that's what's expected in America and society and for men. And men have been taught that their value is by what they can produce.
Right.
That's what they've taught. And so
they're producers. Right. No, I hear
yes.
you.
And so there has typically in traditional homes, a primary breadwinner and the person that's raising the children. And this is changing in the last couple of generations. And this has been very clunky. I would say this transition has been very clunky, because now people can access therapy sometimes. And there's more awareness as to like how these roles came about and how people have been socialized. Yet women are still usually the primary caretaker. This isn't in all cases, and this is a vast overgeneralization.
And that's okay. We are just going to generalize for the sake of this.
These are generalizations. And there's a lot of anger, repressed anger with women, because we are socialized not to get angry and to like implode inside and to be martyrs and to be selfless and all of these things. And it's like a tinderbox of both of these things. You build the world, I implode inside, yet project outside. All this anger gets projected at these boys. That's what you're speaking about. And boys, even from a young age, almost still to this day, there's a generation of parents that are becoming conscious. It's beautiful. And I love seeing it. It's incredible. And it's still a small number of people. It's a smidgen. It's like 1% to 5%, I would say, if I was doing research. I don't know. I haven't done actual research. These are numbers that are flying out of my mouth. Yeah. And still there's these boys are taught to, little boys, suck it up. Emotions are bad. And so they go to these strategies that our society that is dysfunctional. The society that we live in the West is very dysfunctional, of men sucking in their feelings, not being in touch with their emotional truth. And like men are bullied by other men and boys are bullied by other boys all humans have the same emotional, every human feels sadness and should have boundaries and state their truth. And all this we've been socialized in some of these gender,
socialized. I'm going to tell you, okay,
from all
brought me up to believe that men didn't have feelings.
Yes, this is a thing that people still believe that men or they're tougher or somehow they don't have this innate sensitivity, which is true for everyone. If you look at a little boy that's 2 years old, and that's not traumatized, he's beautiful. He's running around. He has these beautiful feelings, and because he's human and he's alive, and there's some conscious parents raising conscious children that are never going to be traumatized, and this beautiful little boy is going to grow up and be a wonderful man in this world that is having a hard time with becoming conscious as to like what is really true versus how we've been socialized and how we've been conditioned to believe who we are. And there's certain mental models that are running the stories of humanity and system, and we have to look at, again, consciousness cleanse. Where did this come from? Where did this belief that boys don't have feelings or emotions come from? Because it's not true, like innately, but where did we inherit the stories? Because these stories live in our bodies. And that's why I practice somatics, because the story is in the body. They're shut down. And so this is why men typically cope with overworking. They cope with addiction. They cope with alcohol, and they
cope with people not showing up for them.
Yeah, and they're selfless. And then it's such a collective wound, because men still have creativity. They still have sensitivity. They still have all of these same human emotions that everyone has. It's for everyone, but yet
they can wear pink, right? They can wear pink. Men can wear pink.
That whole thing was like, there was something that happened. If you look at, I don't know, the older I get, the more I become a historian just to try and understand like where we're at. Like that was a marketing thing because colors didn't used to be, this was for blue didn't used to be for boy and pink for girl, and toys, they didn't used to have like different toys. This was a marketing thing. I also have a marketing background, and the two combined together, business and like working with people, for me has been like mind blowing. Yes.